In her previous life, she and he were never fated to be together. Only when she was about to leave this world did she learn the secret he had always buried deep in his heart. When he whispered in her ear, "You are the white moonlight in my heart, the person I love deeply but can never reach." Those words melted her heart and filled her with regret. At that time, she secretly vowed that if there were another life, she would love him at first sight and never miss this destined romance again. Want to know how the heroine, after being reborn, wins over the male lead with her sincerity? Then please follow Aishi as we begin this story. I would be very grateful if you could leave a like and subscribe. Thank you all very much. Now, let's get into the story. At the kindergarten, the clock had just struck 3 in the afternoon. The sky began to darken, and pellets of hail started pattering down. Seeing this strange sight for the first time in their lives, the children cheered excitedly. "Everyone look, it seems to be ice. It must be edible." "Really? I want some too." "Yeah, I want to try it too." While the children eagerly watched the unusual phenomenon falling from the sky, a little boy inside the room sat awkwardly in a wheelchair. He was terribly embarrassed because he had wet his pants. The homeroom teacher came over to help him change. Just then, she looked up and saw a boy holding a piece of hail to his mouth to taste it. Alarmed, she shouted, "Oh my goodness, that's hail. You mustn't eat it." Then she hurried outside to stop them. The boy in the wheelchair struggled to pull up his pants, afraid his classmates would come in, discover what had happened, and laugh at him. The teacher then led the children back into the classroom, reminding them as they walked, "You mustn't eat hail, understand? If you get hit by hail, children will never grow taller." A boy, full of worrying questions, asked, "Teacher, does that mean I'll never grow up? I accidentally ate a piece just now." The teacher stroked his head and reassured him with a smile. "Of course not. As long as you eat plenty of rice and vegetables when you get home tonight, you'll be fine." While she was speaking, a chubby boy standing nearby smelled something unpleasant. He closed his eyes and followed the smell. When the chubby boy opened his eyes, he saw a puddle beneath the wheelchair where his classmate was sitting. Seeing him look over, the boy in the wheelchair clenched both hands nervously. Just as the saying went, what he feared most came to pass. The chubby boy pointed at the puddle and shouted to the whole class, "Look everyone, Pei Chuan wet his pants, and he made such a huge puddle too." The children all turned to Pei Chuan with expressions of surprise and disgust. "That's so gross. I stopped wetting my pants when I was 3. Exactly. My mom says children who wet their pants are dirty. Look, his pants are still wet. He's so dirty." Every word from his classmates weighed on Pei Chuan's heart like a boulder. His face turned red, and tears welled up in his eyes. He was overwhelmed with anxiety. In a panic, he swept the stack of books on the desk onto the floor, trying to cover the puddle he had made. In the end, Pei Chuan could no longer hold back his tears. "I didn't mean to. I really didn't mean to." The children began joining in. "Pei Chuan has no legs, and he even wet himself in class. We won't play with him anymore. If we play with him, we might wet our pants too." The classroom became loud and chaotic, and the commotion woke the little girl sitting in the back. Our heroine felt a terrible headache. She instinctively raised a hand to her head, confused. "Didn't I die? Where am I?" At that moment, a voice sounded beside her. "Pei Chuan is so dirty. I don't want to sit in front of him anymore." Seeing the classroom in chaos, the teacher pushed Pei Chuan away to change his clothes while telling the others, "Go back to your seats. I'll call your parents to come pick you up now." When she saw Pei Chuan's young face, the heroine's eyes widened in shock. Pei Chuan. This was what Pei Chuan had looked like as a child. She remembered clearly that 18 years later, Pei Chuan would become a wildly obsessive computer genius, famous in his field. He was also the one who had saved her from the hell that was the Su family during her most desperate moment. She could still vividly remember what he had said. "Yao Yao, I'll protect you for the rest of my life." Back then, she had been sick and bedridden, while Pei Chuan remained constantly at her side. She had thought that if she could start her life over again, she would stay far away from Su, spend more time being filial to her parents, and have nothing to do with Pei Chuan for the rest of her life. But that was only possible if Pei Chuan had not left such a deep mark on her before she died. And now, the person before her was merely a frail child who had lost the legs that once allowed him to run and jump. A while later, while the hail had yet to stop, countless parents arrived with umbrellas to take their children home. What strange weather. It was sunny this morning, and now there's hail in the afternoon. How awful. The little boy being carried on his grandmother's back did not forget to turn around and say goodbye to the teacher. "Goodbye, Teacher Zhao. Goodbye, Xiaowei. See you tomorrow." 5 minutes later, the heroine's mother finally arrived. "Yao Yao, Mommy's here to take you home. Having returned to life, Bei Yao was deeply moved to see her mother young again. With tears in her eyes, she called Mom. Seeing her precious daughter acting so strangely today, her mother worriedly pulled her into an embrace. My little darling, why are you crying? Did the hail frighten you? Bei Yao shook her head repeatedly. As her mother carried her home on her back, she instinctively turned to look in Pei Chuan's direction. She remembered that in her previous life, Pei Chuan's mother had been a surgeon at a large hospital, where an operation had kept her working until late at night. His father was the captain of the criminal investigation unit and was equally busy. Therefore, neither of them ever came to pick Pei Chuan up on time. Little Pei Chuan's figure looked terribly lonely and isolated. Bei Yao looked worried and sad. The temperature would drop sharply tonight. This might be the coldest summer night ever. She still remembered that in her previous life, Pei Chuan had been unable to wait for anyone in this world any longer. The next day, when the teacher saw Bei Yao coming to class, she asked in surprise, "Didn't Yao Yao take sick leave today? Why is she here?" Her mother covered her face and sighed. "That's right, teacher. It's usually hard enough to get her to come to school. I don't know why, but even though she's sick today, she insisted on coming." The teacher led Bei Yao into the classroom. Before entering, she did not forget to wave goodbye to her mother. Worried that she might feel unwell, the teacher repeatedly reminded her, "Yao Yao, if you feel sick, remember to tell me, okay? Don't be like you were yesterday." "Yes, teacher, I understand." When Bei Yao entered the classroom, she found that while the other children happily sang and played together, Pei Chuan sat alone in a corner with no one to play with. Pei Chuan also noticed her and stared in her direction. "Yao Yao, sit here and play with the others." Bei Yao followed the teacher, but her gaze remained fixed on Pei Chuan. In her previous life, she had been sick and absent from class on this very day. But from that day onward, Pei Chuan had suddenly stopped speaking. He had even refused to attend kindergarten afterward. The reason she had insisted on coming today was to find out exactly what Pei Chuan had gone through. The children gathered in a circle, listening to music and playing a game together. Chunhu volunteered to go first. Holding a handkerchief, he began running around the circle. When he reached Pei Chuan's back, Chunhu suddenly seemed to think of something and stopped. Without hesitation, he tossed the handkerchief onto Pei Chuan. Chunhu's action abruptly silenced the other children, and they all looked at the handkerchief caught on Pei Chuan's wheelchair. The handkerchief fell beneath Pei Chuan's feet, and he bent down with difficulty to pick it up. The rules of the game were simple. The person hit by the handkerchief had to pick it up and chase after the person who threw it. If they threw it back and hit them, they won. Chunhu made a teasing face at Pei Chuan. "Naya, Naya, if you can, come catch me." The entire class burst into laughter. Bei Yao watched Pei Chuan's every move, silently praying that he would not pick up that handkerchief. But after struggling for a while, Pei Chuan finally managed to retrieve it. It took so much effort that he broke out in sweat. Bei Yao's heart ached as she watched him. During that summer when he was 5 years old, Pei Chuan was like a caged beast, frustrated and despairing as he tried to maneuver his wheelchair through the game Chun who had set up. Chun who stood in front of him and continued provoking him. "Look, everyone, he's going the wrong way. He's so stupid." Bei Yao felt that she had once had many childhood memories, but she could no longer remember them clearly after growing up. To her in the past, Pei Chuan had merely been a boy without legs. If not for the fact that she had turned him into a demon in order to protect her, then even if she had been reborn, she certainly would not have cared about him. The children's mocking laughter continued. Come catch me. Naya, Naya, you can't catch me, Pei Chuan." Other than enduring it, Pei Chuan could do nothing. Bei Yao clasped her hands together and watched Pei Chuan with a determined gaze. Though he had become a demon in everyone else's eyes, he was also her benefactor. Having made up her mind that she would protect Pei Chuan well in this life, Bei Yao rushed forward like a little puppy and tightly hugged Chunhu's leg. The chubby boy tried everything, but could not break free. Irritated, he shouted, "Bei Yao, what are you doing? Let go of my leg." "No, you're not allowed to bully him." The chubby boy felt helpless after trying every possible way to escape. Yet he could not free himself from Bei Yao's firm grip. So he threw his head back and began bawling loudly. Wah? Seeing Chunhu cry so miserably, Bei Yao looked innocent, as though saying that she had no idea what had happened. She quietly turned to Pei Chuan and mouthed, "Pei Chuan, Hurry and catch him. Contrary to Bei Yao's expectations, Pei Chuan coldly threw the handkerchief back at the other children. Then he wheeled himself away. When the other children saw Chun-Hu crying, they began crying as well. Their sobs echoed throughout the classroom. Bei Yao stared at Pei Chuan's departing back, her mind full of question marks. She had no idea what was going on. Hearing the crying, the teacher hurried inside and asked the class, "What happened? Why is everyone crying?" "Oh my, Bei Yao, why are you lying on the floor? Hurry up and get up, or you'll get sick again." Pei Chuan stopped at the classroom door. He looked sadly up at the sky and thought school would be over soon, but Mom and Dad still hadn't come to pick me up today. Behind Pei Chuan, the teacher continued comforting the children. "Be good now, stop crying. If you keep crying, you'll turn into cats." Pei Chuan looked at the girl and the chubby boy, thinking that they were the most popular children in the kindergarten. Chun, who knew countless ways to play and could always lead everyone in games, while Fong Minjun was very pretty. His gaze quickly shifted elsewhere. That little girl with bright, sparkling eyes, if he remembered correctly, was the youngest child in the kindergarten and lived in the same housing complex as him. She cried often, loved to act spoiled, and got sick easily. Everyone called her Bei Yao. "Chun-Hu, your dad is here." Hearing that, Chun-Hu quickly ran toward his father. Before leaving with him, he turned back and waved to the teacher. "Goodbye, teacher." "Goodbye, Chun-Hu." After walking a short distance, Chun-Hu turned back and made a face at Pei Chuan. Naya, your dad won't come pick you up." Little Pei Chuan clenched his wheelchair in irritation. Seeing this, Bei Yao frowned and crossed her arms unhappily. That really was a mean child. Wanting to get closer to Pei Chuan and improve their relationship, Bei Yao quickly folded a paper airplane. She walked over to Pei Chuan and offered it to him with a smile. "Hello, my name is Bei Yao. Our homes are close to each other. Let's go home together today." Pei Chuan was in a foul mood, so he took the paper airplane Bei Yao gave him and threw it far away. "Go away. I don't need your help." The paper airplane flew a long distance before falling to the ground. Bei Yao hurried over to pick up the airplane she had folded. Seeing that it was dirty, she puffed at it several times to blow the dust away. Once it was clean again, Bei Yao smiled and ran back to offer it to Pei Chuan once more. Her smile was utterly sincere. Seeing that she still refused to give up, Pei Chuan paused for a moment. Then, before Bei Yao's innocent eyes, he quickly tore the paper airplane into tiny pieces. Seeing Bei Yao's dazed expression, he quietly guessed that, based on what he knew about her, she would surely cry like Chun-Hu, loudly and dramatically, then run off to tattle to the teacher. But Bei Yao felt somewhat disappointed by Pei Chuan's behavior, though she felt even more sympathy for him. She believed that everyone who had been hurt was like a hedgehog, covered in spines, yet soft and fragile inside. Having figured it out, she looked up with a smile and suggested, "If you don't want to play, then let's go home together. My mother didn't come to pick me up today either. Can we go home by ourselves together, Pei Chuan? Come on, I'll push you." Just as Bei Yao's hand was about to touch Pei Chuan's wheelchair, he suddenly slapped her hand away with great force. A loud smack rang out. Bei Yao's hand swelled red, and tears welled up in her eyes from the pain. "Pei Chuan, what's wrong with you?" She thought to herself. Pei Chuan really is difficult to get close to. Suddenly, her mother's voice came from outside. "Teacher Zhao, I'm so sorry. I got off work late today." "It's all right, Yao Yao's mother. It's still early." "Hello, Mommy's precious baby. Come here, let Mommy hold you." With that, her mother bent down and picked her up. Seeing her daughter continually looking toward the boy, Bei Yao's mother followed her gaze. She recognized Pei Chuan as the boy from their housing complex. Seeing his sad expression, she softened. "Pei Chuan, I'll take you home with us today." But after waiting a while, Bei Yao's mother received no reply from him. Seeing the tense atmosphere, the teacher stepped forward. "Sorry, Yao Yao's mother. You should go ahead first." As Bei Yao's mother left, she sighed repeatedly. What had those two people done wrong for their child to have such a personality? Pei Chuan watched Bei Yao and her mother leave with a dark expression mixed with expectation. Seeing the two of them smiling together made him feel a little sad. Only then did he loosen his hand, revealing countless scraps of paper inside. Sure enough, she had lied to me. In the end, her mother still came to pick her up and take her home. In the housing complex where Bei Yao lived, lights had come on in many apartments. Worried about Pei Chuan, Bei Yao moved a chair over, stood on it, and looked through the window. When she noticed lights and a silhouette in the apartment across from hers, she breathed a sigh of relief. There are lights on and someone inside Pei Chuan's home, so he must have been taken home. After making sure, she climbed down from the chair. Why does my head hurt so much? It feels like I'm getting a fever again. The strange thing was that her memories seemed to be gradually fading. I absolutely cannot forget my memories, or I'll repeat the mistakes of my previous life. With that thought, she took a diary from her desk drawer and, while her mind was still clear, tried to write everything down. She hoped it would remind her if she ever lost her memory in the future. In 2010, Bei Yao married Hua Su and learned that he had someone he truly loved. At the time, Bei Yao had merely been a shield for him to defy his family and protect the person he truly loved. Hua Su was the son of a military man and a wealthy businessman, a man of both money and power. Back then, her mother and father ran everywhere to help Bei Yao escape the Hua family. Because of all that rushing around, her father was unfortunately involved in an accident and became comatose. Remembering that scene, she was heartbroken and could not stop herself from crying. After so much effort, her mother had finally found man. Yet that man was Pei Chuan, the person the entire world called a devil because the program he wrote had destroyed social stability. After meeting her, he protected her for 2 years. Finally, on the day she left this world, Pei Chuan whispered a secret in her ear that he had kept hidden for many years. He said that she was the precious treasure he had never dared to love in his entire life. In 2015, Bai Ya died in humiliation. Even in death, she had to serve as that woman's shield. At that moment, she vowed to treat Pei Chuan well in this life. Though her fever had left her muddled, she still held countless questions about what had happened today. In her previous life, it had caused Pei Chuan to refuse to attend kindergarten and stop speaking altogether. She did not know what the outcome would be in this life. Would he still come to class tomorrow? The next day, after a full day of learning kindergarten lessons with their teacher, it was finally time to go home. Yao Yao, he murmured so softly that only he could hear it. I came to school, but she didn't. After Bei Yao endured several days of persistent fever, something strange happened. Her 4-year-old body rejected the memories of her previous life. After being seriously ill for days, her memories had stopped at the 3rd grade of elementary school. Today, after she felt better, she followed her mother to school. However, thanks to her notebook, she still knew that she had been reborn. As soon as she entered the classroom, she looked around for the person she still missed dearly. Looking at the world from a child's perspective, she no longer felt as irritable and anxious as before. Instead, she felt far more longing and curiosity toward this world. It was as if it were welcoming her into a new life. Without even looking at Pei Chuan's expression, he brazenly tore open the wrapper. Seeing Pei Chuan stare at him with icy eyes, Chun-Hu spoke loudly and arrogantly. At that moment, Fang Minjun came over and said to Chun-Hu, "Xiao-Hu, his cookies are dirty. Don't eat them." Seeing the cookies thrown onto the floor, Pei Chuan's face turned colder than ever. Without another word, he lunged forward and grabbed Chun-Hu by the collar. "Let go of me. Let me go." Hearing the classroom erupt into another chaotic uproar, the teacher hurried in to see what was happening. Bei Yao stood there, frozen, not knowing what to do. All she could do was look at Pei Chuan. The teacher held him and tried to soothe him. Only then did Pei Chuan regain his senses. Slowly, he opened his mouth and released Chun-Hu's hand. The teacher immediately carried Chun-Hu to the infirmary. Chun-Hu cried uncontrollably in fright. After watching the teacher and Chun-Hu leave, Bei Yao came up with an idea. She wanted to protect Pei Chuan too. Unhurriedly, she held out the lotus flower to him. Not stopping there, Bei Yao used her soft little hands to gently pat Pei Chuan. After a while, she smiled as brightly as a flower and asked, "How is it? It doesn't hurt anymore, right?" In contrast to her smiling face, Pei Chuan coldly brushed her hand away. He placed the lotus flower on the desk, then quickly wheeled himself away. Bei Yao watched him leave with a disappointed expression. "You're not allowed to say that. Pei Chuan isn't a little fool. His name is Pei Chuan. My mom said Chuan means river, and rivers are very clean. So he isn't dirty either." Those words rang in Pei Chuan's ears like a spell. In his eyes was the image of Bei Yao doing her best to defend him, making his heart seem to skip a beat. Pei Chuan looked out the window and murmured to himself, "Of course, I'm not dirty." He remembered that he always washed his hands thoroughly after using the bathroom. Even putting on clothes the way his mother had taught him had never been difficult for him. His father had also told him that his name meant that the sea embraced all rivers. Though he did not understand what that meant, he believed it was a beautiful name. But ever since he lost both his legs, he had somehow become a dirty person in everyone else's eyes. No matter how beautiful his name was, his soul had been permanently ruined by these legs. Upon hearing that their precious son had been hurt at school, Chun-Hoo's parents hurried over. Their voices were full of anger as they pointed at Pei Chuan. The teacher came over to mediate. For the first time since losing his legs, Pei Chuan saw his mother come to school for him. Unable to hold himself back, he called out, "Mom, it's all right. Let's go home." After they got home, Mother Pei carefully wiped his face as she cautiously asked, "Pei Chuan, your teacher told me what happened. Why'd you bite Chun-Hoo?" He hesitated for a moment before making an excuse. "He stole my cookies." His mother sighed after hearing that and made a guess. Mother Pei stroked his head and changed the subject. Half an hour later, Pei Chuan's father, Pei Haoyun, returned home after finishing work. But his mother said nothing and only turned on the television intently. The atmosphere in the home was terribly stifling. Father Pei walked over, bent down, and asked with concern, "Pei Chuan, were you good at school today?" "Daddy's home." Pei Chuan hesitated, then called softly, "Dad." His mother did not want to see this scene. She quickly stood and said, "It's getting late. Pei Chuan, go to sleep." Hearing their son ask for a bath, the couple immediately avoided the matter. Hearing the firmness in her son's voice, his mother paused. Then she relented and went to prepare hot water for his bath. Mother Pei placed Pei Chuan in the bathtub. He used both hands to hold onto the edge. Though he was upright, he looked so small. The hand holding his bath towel trembled constantly. Seeing the son who had once been so tall, now looking so tiny, tears welled in her eyes, and she did not know what to say. Pei Chuan had once lain in a pool of blood, his legs severed from his body. Every time she saw his incomplete legs, Pei Chuan's mother was overwhelmed by the scene before her. She could not believe such a terrible thing had happened. The image of that day remained vivid in her mind, impossible to erase no matter how hard she tried. It was carved deeply into Jiang Wenjuan's soul. Because of his father's job, criminals had often taken revenge on them, and Pei Chuan had lost his legs because of it. That tragedy had created a wall between the couple. Pei Chuan had been only 4 years old that day. How much pain and despair must he have suffered? As his mother, how could Jiang Wenwan not resent this home? In the end, their home could never return to what it had once been. He blinked his round eyes at his mother. Someone knocked on the door outside. Before Jiang Wenwan could tell her son a story, she hurriedly rose and went outside. Pei Chuan watched his mother's retreating figure, his eyes wide open. He felt somewhat disappointed and dejected. Pei Chuan looked toward the wall and recalled happy memories from the past. His parents had once marked his height there with chalk, but he seemingly could not sleep, so his eyes remained open as he looked around. He knew very clearly that he would never grow as tall as his father. As soon as they knocked, someone came out. It was Pei Chuan's stern-faced father. "Yao Yao, this is Uncle Pei Haoyun." Pei Chuan's father was very welcoming toward his visitors. Pei Haoyun knocked on his son's door. Pei Chuan was doing homework. Hearing the sound, he hurriedly turned around. The little Bei Yao entered the room, carrying a small piece of cake in her hands. Bei Yao's eyes were clear and innocent. Somewhat timidly, she held the cake out in front of Pei Chuan. Pei Chuan carefully reached out and accepted Bei Yao's cake. She was overjoyed. Pei Chuan had finally noticed her. She smiled so happily that her eyes curved into crescents. Yao Yao was instantly terrified. She remembered that Pei Chuan had grabbed Chun-Hoo's clothes in exactly the same way that day, and then bitten him. She instinctively covered her hand. Bei Yao looked down at her bib, stunned by what she saw inside the pocket. The scene returned to Pei Chuan's home. Bei Yao opened her cute little hand. Resting in her palm was a chocolate bar. "Mom." Yao Yao smiled happily. Mother and daughter were very affectionate as Mother Zhao gently rubbed the little girl's adorable head. After her mother told her to eat it, Bei Yao tore open the chocolate bar and took a bite. It was so delicious that her pretty little face lit up. It seemed almost impossible to resist. But Bei Yao only took one bite. Then she tucked the chocolate back in her bib pocket. Today seemed to be a wonderful day for Bei Yao. After so many days, Pei Chuan had finally accepted her gift. Happily holding her mother's hand, she skipped home. She would save the rest of the chocolate to eat later. A new day began at kindergarten. The children were chatting among themselves. Chun-Hoo kept picking fights with Pei Chuan. Right in front of Bei Yao, he badmouthed him. "That cripple Pei Chuan is going too. I'll definitely be better than him. Who told him to bite me? Bei Yao fell silent, deep in thought. At that moment, the little girl felt a faint sadness, mixed with a touch of worry. She still had to remain in kindergarten for another year before she could enter primary school, which meant she would be 1 year behind Pei Chuan. If everyone in Pei Chuan's class was like Chun Hu, would he be unable to make friends? While Bei Yao was lost in her thoughts, teacher Zhao clapped her hands and happily announced, "Class will be over soon. Today is Yao Yao's birthday. Let's sing her a birthday song." The children happily replied, "Okay." Bei Yao stared blankly at everyone as they clapped and sang for her. "Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Yao Yao." Bei Yao tightly hugged the drawing book in her hands, her face clearly showing her surprise amid her classmates' cheerful singing. "Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Yao Yao. Happy birthday to you." It turned out that something was missing from Bei Yao's heart. She thought of Pei Chuan, which was why she did not look very happy. Finally, school was over. Bei Yao's mother picked her up and brought her home. It was probably time for dinner. The little girl sat properly at the table as her mother brought over her food. "Yao Yao, here are your sweet boiled eggs." Bei Yao's mother came to the table and set down a bowl containing 2 boiled eggs. Bei Yao looked at her mother and asked, "Mom, can I make a birthday wish?" Her mother said, "Of course. Tell me." Suddenly, Bei Yao made an extremely bold request. This time, she was very serious and certain of her decision. "I want to go to school." But she was not old enough. How could she attend school? Naturally, her mother did not agree. She explained, "No, you have to wait until you are 5 before you can go. You haven't even started school yet, and you're already thinking about skipping ahead? No, the older children go to school to learn how to write. You can stay in kindergarten and play games with your friends." Bei Yao's mother placed both hands on her daughter's shoulders, trying to persuade her to abandon the idea. "Yao Yao, be good. If I lose at the starting line, I'll never be able to catch up later." Just then, Bei Yao's father appeared. He was a strong, handsome man. Bei Yao waved her tiny arms and legs as she said, "Wait a moment." She took out some addition and subtraction problems and confidently showed them to her parents. Bei Yao's parents were astonished. This was knowledge that children only learned in 1st grade. They carefully examined the notebook filled with arithmetic problems. Her mother asked, "Yao Yao, where did you learn these things?" Bei Yao answered, "They were written on the wall at kindergarten. I memorized them." Bei Yao truly was very clever. Afraid of being suspected, she had deliberately chosen only simple problems. She held out the notebook for her parents to see. Her father praised her, "My daughter really is a genius." While Bei Yao's mother was still trying to understand what was happening, her father was already jumping around joyfully over his daughter's extraordinary intelligence. Bei Yao thought to herself that, as expected, Dad was less perceptive than Mom. Bei Yao's mother still did not quite believe it, so she immediately gave her a math question to confirm it. "What is 2 plus 2? Since she was acting, Bei Yao had to carry it through. She pretended to think it over hesitantly, then confidently smiled and said, 4. At last, Bei Yao's mother believed her. She hugged her daughter tightly, and the family of 3 embraced one another, laughing brightly. "We'll enroll you in the senior kindergarten class. Tomorrow, I'll go speak to the teacher." The scene shifted to Pei Chuan's home. It was pouring rain that day, and all 3 of them were wrapped tightly in raincoats. Pei Chuan was about to be taken to school. After settling him neatly on his wheelchair, his mother adjusted his raincoat and reminded him, "Little Chuan, you'll be starting the senior kindergarten class soon. If anything happens, remember to find the teacher." He answered, "Yes, Mom." Pei Chuan's father sat on a motorcycle and said, "Let's go," from behind them. His mother waved goodbye to her husband and son. Pei Chuan slightly turned his head back to look at her. "Goodbye, Mom." Pei Chuan's mother remained standing there, waving farewell to her son in the cold rain. In truth, Pei Chuan did not want to attend the senior kindergarten class. He felt a little sad and did not like it. But he had to go because after he started the senior class, his mother had finally agreed to speak with his father. He wanted a complete family, even if he himself could no longer be whole as before. Pei Chuan's father soon brought little Chuan to Sunrise Primary School. While his father spoke with the teacher, little Chuan sat quietly in his wheelchair. A water bottle prepared by his mother hung from the side of it. Teacher Sue walked over to him and warmly introduced herself. "Hello, little Chuan. I'm Teacher Sue, and I'm also your father's friend. From now on, I'll teach you lots of interesting new things and take good care of you." Pei Chuan's eyes brightened slightly. He looked up at Teacher Sue and politely replied, "Yes." Seeing that Pei Chuan was willing to cooperate, Teacher Sue turned to his father and said, "Don't worry. Go to work. I'll take good care of him." Pei Chuan's father nodded lightly. Then, before leaving, he gave his son a gentle look and reminded him, Dad is going to work. If you need to use the bathroom, remember to raise your hand and tell the teacher. Little Chuan was more open with his father today, and he happily answered, Okay. Teacher Su quickly pushed Pei Chuan into the classroom. As they went, she chatted softly with him. Everyone in the preparatory class is new here. You may even run into classmates from your old kindergarten. Hearing Teacher Su's words, Pei Chuan thought to himself, I don't want to see anyone from before, except one person. Inside the classroom, the children attending the preparatory class for the first time were extremely noisy, chatting away. It rained so hard today. Yeah, luckily, my dad drove me here early. My mom brought me. The rain was so heavy that I got soaked all over. Good thing my parents brought me early, or I would have been late. While the children were talking noisily, Teacher Su pushed Pei Chuan into the classroom. When the students saw the new child sitting in a wheelchair, they were extremely surprised. The once noisy classroom suddenly became strangely quiet. After taking a closer look, some children began whispering among themselves. Why is he in a wheelchair? Does he not have legs? That's right. It looks like he really doesn't have legs. Teacher Su arranged a seat by the window for Little Chuan. Little Chuan, sit here. Chun-Hu, who sat at the desk behind him, widened his eyes in displeasure when he saw that Pei Chuan was in the same class. Resting his chin on one hand, he thought for a moment before secretly grinning. I can't believe I'm in the same class as that guy. Teacher Su clapped to signal for silence, then introduced herself to the class. You met me yesterday when you came to register. Let me introduce myself again. I'm Teacher Su. A few students still haven't arrived, so while we wait, let's arrange your seats first. The class replied in unison. Okay. Teacher Su looked at the children in her class and asked with a smile, Little Chuan has injured legs and needs everyone's care. Is there any brave and kind child who would like to sit with him at the front? As soon as Teacher Su finished speaking, several children raised their hands. Seeing so many volunteers, Teacher Su asked, Little Chuan, who would you like to sit with? Pei Chuan did not answer. He only turned his head and swept his cold gaze over every child in the classroom. His frosty attitude, especially that cold stare, made all the children feel afraid. Slowly, every raised hand went down. He looked so fierce. His eyes are scary. Chun-Hu sneered, crossed his arms, and began telling everyone bad things about Pei Chuan from kindergarten. Let me tell you, when Little Chuan was in kindergarten, he wet his pants, and he even bites people. Hearing this, the children became unsettled. What's wrong with him? No wonder he looked at us like that just now. While Chun-Hu went on and on insulting him, Pei Chuan remained silent. Just then, he suddenly heard a very familiar sound of panting, making him turn to see who it was. At the classroom door stood Yao Yao, her face covered in sweat from rushing over. Today, she wore a cute purple dress. Seeing that the last new student had arrived, Teacher Su said, Bei Yao, you're here. There are 3 empty seats left in the classroom. Choose one. Yao Yao politely answered, Okay. At Teacher Su's words, Bei Yao looked around for a seat. When she saw an empty spot beside Pei Chuan, she cheered inwardly. Great, I want to sit with Little Chuan. Then, with great excitement, Bei Yao quickly ran over on her little legs. Just as she put down her school bag beside Pei Chuan, he looked at her indifferently and said coldly, Move away. Bei Yao's appearance here made Pei Chuan deeply suspicious. She should not have started school here until another year later. Who needs her pity? Stay away from me. Yao Yao was stunned by his coldness. Not wanting Little Chuan to send her away, she quickly thought of a solution. With an innocent face and tears welling in her eyes, she said, But I'm very short. After a pause, she leaned close to Pei Chuan and continued, If a short person sits at the back, she won't be able to see the blackboard. Boo-hoo. Pei Chuan could not think of another reason to drive Bei Yao away, especially when he saw the expectant look on her face. In the end, he could only fall silent. While Pei Chuan silently compromised, Bei Yao was delighted that she had achieved her goal. As she took out her notebooks, she happily thought, Little Chuan spoke to me just now. Teacher Su held a stack of books and said with a smile, Quiet down and sit properly, everyone. Teacher Su is going to hand out your new books. Then she selected several students to help distribute them. Come help me pass out the books. Every child eagerly volunteered. Okay. By coincidence, Chun, who was chosen to distribute the books. He casually flipped through a few and found one that was stained, bent, and rather worn. At once, Chun, who had a nasty idea. He smirked. When he passed Pei Chuan's desk, he suddenly threw that book heavily onto his desk. Chun, who cast Pei Chuan a smug glance and thought, I'll give him this old, dirty book and see what he does. Although Chun, who was deliberately picking on him, Pei Chuan said nothing. He quietly took out a pencil, lowered his head, and wrote something in the newly issued book. Pei Chuan was writing his name in the book. His handwriting was not only sharp, but also exceptionally beautiful. When Yao Yao saw it, she could not help narrowing her eyes in a smile as she praised him. Pei Chuan, your name is written so beautifully. Seeing that he had failed to anger Pei Chuan, Chun, who resentfully tossed another book onto Bei Yao's desk. Here's yours. Yao Yao did not distance herself from Chun, who, because of his conflict with Pei Chuan, she smiled brightly and politely said, Thank you, Chun-Hu. Chun-Hu snorted and left to continue handing out books. Then Yao Yao followed Pei Chuan's example, concentrating on writing her own name beautifully on the label. At that moment, Yao Yao felt someone poking at her clothes. She turned around and saw the adorable face of the girl behind her. When the girl saw Yao Yao looking at her, she introduced herself. Hello, my name is Enai Hui. What's yours? Yao Yao happily turned toward her new friend and answered, Hello, I'm Bei Yao. Then Enai Hui looked warily toward Pei Chuan and asked. And him, Pei Chuan gave off an aura that said strangers should stay away, and his cold expression made Enai Hui feel a little awkward. She quietly said, never mind. The boy sitting beside Enai Hui pointed to himself and introduced himself. My name is Gu Xinghua. I just turned 5 this year. I'm happy to be friends with you, Bei Yao. The three of them then gathered together and chatted happily. Yao Yao did not forget to look toward Pei Chuan and wave at him. She looked just like an adorable little rabbit. However, Pei Chuan only responded with an icy expression. He paid her no attention and merely stared intently at his book, thinking, What are you looking at? If you keep looking, I'll tear up your little flower. At the tailor shop where Bei Yao's mother worked, Fang Minjun's mother worriedly turned to her friend and asked, Your Bei Yao is only 4 years old. Isn't she too young to attend the preparatory class already? What if she can't keep up? Bei Yao's mother smiled confidently. My Yao Yao has a talent for studying. She already knows how to do arithmetic at such a young age. Besides, she was the one who asked to attend the preparatory class. Hearing her friend's answer, Fang Minjun's mother felt resentful and jealous. My daughter is even half a month older than Bei Yao. If this continues, won't my daughter always be 1 grade behind hers? I've competed with Zhao Zilan all my life. That's right, I absolutely cannot lose to Zhao Zilan in this matter. If that silly Bei Yao can attend the preparatory class, then my Minjun can do it too. After a day of getting used to school, it was time to go home. Pei Chuan's father arrived right on time to pick up his son. Teacher Su did not forget to remind the class, Children, line up properly. Seeing that Bei Yao was attending school, Pei Chuan's father was quite surprised. He asked his son, Bei Yao is in the preparatory class too? She's even in the same class as you. Little Chuan, since it's on our way, shall we give her a ride home? Pei Chuan glanced toward Bei Yao, then lowered his head and said to his father, Dad, let's just go. Her mother may already be here to pick her up. If she doesn't see Bei Yao, she'll worry. You're right. Then let's go home. Let's go. Father and son then rode home together. At that moment, little Chuan turned back to look at Bei Yao. Bei Yao happened to be looking at him as well, so she smiled and waved goodbye. Bye, little Chuan. See you tomorrow. Pei Chuan did not reply. Seeming to be lost in thought, he could only sit silently. In the teacher's office, a male teacher saw Teacher Su sitting dejectedly and asked, What's wrong, Teacher Su? You look upset. Teacher Su folded her arms and answered, Teacher Fang's daughter has been assigned to our class. I'm thinking about how to arrange her seat, since each desk already has 2 students. Seeing Teacher Su's dilemma, the teacher suggested, Why not let Pei Chuan sit alone? Teacher Su immediately objected. That wouldn't be very good. Disabled children are often very sensitive. If we have Bei Yao sit with Fang Minjun instead, what would Pei Chuan think? While drinking water, the teacher voiced his thoughts. Over the past few days, I've paid special attention to Pei Chuan. He's a child with a withdrawn personality. He doesn't want to interact with the other students. Bei Yao is an outgoing girl and gets along well with everyone, but Pei Chuan pays no attention to her at all. I've seen it many times. Whenever Bei Yao gets even a little close to Pei Chuan, he pushes her hand away. He seems to be isolating himself, unwilling to let anyone into his private space. Therefore, I think Pei Chuan would not accept Bei Yao or anyone else sitting with him. If that's the case, wouldn't it be better to let him sit alone? The next day, Fang Minjun's mother drove her class. As soon as she entered, the little girl greeted everyone. "Hello, everyone. My name is Fang Minjun. I'm 4 years old this year. I hope I can get along well with all of you." As soon as she finished introducing herself, countless claps rang out from the class. The children began discussing her excitedly again. "I know her. Her father is also a teacher at our school." "Oh, is she Teacher Fang's daughter? She's so pretty. She looks so sweet. Isn't she the legendary little jade beauty?" Fang Minjun smiled proudly as her classmates praised her. Teacher Su looked worriedly toward Pei Chuan and thought, since school began, Pei Chuan has never raised his hand to ask me to take him to the bathroom. After all, he is a proud and sensitive child. Changing his seat may only cause him more trouble. After considering it for a while, Teacher Su brought Fang Minjun to an empty desk in the middle of the classroom. The seat was close to the podium. "Minjun, would it be all right for you to sit here?" Seeing that she had to sit by herself, Fang Minjun hugged her school bag to her chest, tears filling her eyes. Pei Chuan has no legs, but he still has someone sitting with him. Why do I have to sit alone? Didn't Pei Chuan always sit alone before? I miss Mom. I want to go back to kindergarten. At that moment, Minjun turned her eyes toward Pei Chuan. Seeing Bei Yao seated beside Pei Chuan, Minjun was unwilling to accept it, but she quickly took the seat assigned to her. "I can't give up. I can't go back to kindergarten anymore. I also promised Mom that I would study hard. I absolutely have to score higher than Bei Yao." The recess bell rang. Bei Yao's kindergarten classmates immediately gathered around her desk to chat. Chun Hu said excitedly, "Yao Yao, I can't believe you entered the preparatory class too. I thought it would be a long time before I saw you again." Several boys smiled and said to Fang Minjun, "You're so pretty. Let's be friends." Meanwhile, Bei Yao was still working on building a friendship with Pei Chuan. She took out a fresh, delicious apple, looked at him, and asked, "Chuan, do you want an apple?" When he did not answer, the little girl humorously pretended to take a bite herself. However, she still failed to draw Pei Chuan's attention. Feeling rather awkward, she turned around and asked the two classmates behind her, "Do you want some apple?" The two children behind her smiled. "Yes, please." Pei Chuan's hand, resting on the desk, unconsciously clenched into a fist. Beside him, Bei Yao carefully peeled the apple. When Pei Chuan saw Bei Yao sharing apple slices with the other classmates, he looked somewhat unhappy. Just then, Chun Hu appeared from nowhere and loudly said, "Bei Yao, I want some too." Bei Yao was briefly surprised, but she quickly smiled and handed Chun Hu a slice. "Here you go." Chun Hu happily accepted it. "Bei Yao, during the Lunar New Year, I'll take you out to catch sparrows." "Okay, thank you, Chun Hu." Chun Hu took the apple and returned to his desk, eating it with great relish as he walked. Pei Chuan fell into deep thought. So she was kind of everyone, not just him. So he was not special to her after all. He must have been overthinking things. The more Pei Chuan thought about it, the unhappier he became. He took out a pencil and drew a line on the desk, marking the boundary between himself and Bei Yao. Seeing this, Bei Yao was quite confused. Could it be that Pei Chuan hated her? By coincidence, Teacher Su saw the scene from outside the classroom. Perhaps Teacher Zhao had been right. Pei Chuan did not like Bei Yao. Even if they sat together, he would bully her. So after school, Teacher Su went over and said to Pei Chuan, "Chuan, your father will be a while before he comes to pick you up. Just wait in classroom, all right?" Pei Chuan politely replied, "Yes, teacher." Teacher Su looked directly into his eyes and cautiously asked, "Chuan, do you not want to sit with Bei Yao? Tell me honestly, do you want to sit by yourself, sit with Bei Yao, or sit with Fang Minjun?" Pei Chuan opened his mouth and hesitated. "I want." Then he seemed to think of something and clenched his teeth. After a moment of silence, he answered, "I want to sit alone." Early the next morning, Bei Yao hurried anxiously into the classroom, carrying a bamboo copter in her hand. Phew, good thing she was not late. She saw Pei Chuan sitting curled up in a corner, focused only on reading his book and not interacting with anyone. Bei Yao's cheerful expression immediately turned determined. Today, she would definitely use this bamboo copter to cheer Pei Chuan up. As soon as she decided, she went over and held it out in front of him. "Look, Chuan, what do you think this is?" Pei Chuan's face was expressionless as he listlessly looked up at Bei Yao. Brimming with energy, she excitedly said, "This can fly. Let me show you." As she spoke, she turned to the side and vigorously spun the bamboo copter between both hands, repeatedly murmuring, "Spin, spin." When she felt it was spinning fast enough, Bei Yao released it, sending it flying upward, propelled by the wind. The bamboo copter quickly soared above both their heads. Bei Yao excitedly said to Pei Chuan, "Chuan, look, look, it flew so high." Amid Bei Yao's delighted giggles, someone's gaze was not on the bamboo copter at all. His attention was entirely fixed on her. After a while, the bamboo copter fell to the floor, and Bei Yao quickly ran over to pick it up. She looked at the bamboo copter, her heart filled with excitement. She looked absolutely adorable. Then Bei Yao returned to her seat. Bei Yao handed the bamboo copter to Pei Chuan. "Here, this is for you. Don't be angry anymore, okay?" Pei Chuan looked at her, his thoughts tangled. She still did not know anything. She did not know that he had disliked her for a long time, or rather, that he was no longer angry with her. Under Bei Yao's surprised gaze, Pei Chuan slowly reached out and accepted the bamboo copter. Seeing this, Bei Yao could not hide the joy on her face. Pei Chuan accepted it. After taking the bamboo copter, Pei Chuan kept turning it over in his hands. Though he wanted to make it fly as high as Bei Yao had, he did not dare. He was ashamed of himself. He had no legs now. If it flew away, he would not be able to retrieve it. The only thing he could do was hold it tightly in his hand. That way, he would not lose it. Just then, the class bell rang. Ring, ring, ring. Bei Yao sighed in relief. Phew, class is starting. Good thing I wasn't late earlier. Holding her water cup, Bei Yao sweetly said to Pei Chuan, "Chuan, I want some water." The homeroom teacher kept urging the other students, "Get to your seats quickly. You'll be late." "All right, quiet down, everyone. Oh, Bei Yao, go sit at Fong Minjun's desk." The teacher's words made Pei Chuan's hand freeze as he was unscrewing the lid of the water bottle. The classroom instantly fell silent. Bei Yao stared at the teacher in surprise. Seeing this, Teacher Su repeated herself, "Bei Yao, before class starts, go sit with Fong Minjun." Confused, Bei Yao looked toward Pei Chuan. Why was the teacher telling her to change seats? Under her gaze, Pei Chuan merely lowered his head and said nothing. His hands, resting on his knees, clenched tighter and tighter. Deep down, he wanted to keep her there, but his reason told him he should not. With a heart full of reluctance, Bei Yao packed her books into her school bag. Her eyes lingered on Pei Chuan. Holding her stuffed panda, she felt very worried. If she moved away, Pei Chuan would surely be lonely. She rubbed her face against the panda, unwilling to part with it, but finally made up her mind. She would leave it behind to keep Pei Chuan company. When Bei Yao placed the panda on his desk, Pei Chuan's eyes filled with surprise. He knew how much she liked that toy. During class, she would sometimes unconsciously tug on its ears. Every day, when she came to school, she had to place the panda on the desk first. Looking at her reluctant expression as she changed seats, his heart was full of doubts. Was she unwilling to leave him, or unwilling to leave the panda? Then Pei Chuan shook his head, dismissing the thought. She could not possibly be reluctant to leave him. He returned to his usual cold, distant, uninterested demeanor. Meanwhile, after going to the other desk, Bei Yao hurriedly turned back to see Pei Chuan's reaction. When she saw his indifferent face, her heart sank. Pei Chuan did not like her. He did not like her toy either. Thus, Bei Yao was seated with Fong Minjun, and the whole class listened seriously to the teacher's lesson. At recess, Fong Minjun pointed at the desk drawer and ordered Bei Yao, "There's too much trash in there. Go throw it away." Bei Yao happily replied, "Okay." Once that was done, Fong Minjun handed Bei Yao her workbook and gave her another order. "I don't want to go. Turn in my homework for me." Bei Yao accepted it without a second thought and cheerfully answered, She quickly ran off to submit Fong Minjun's homework. Fong Minjun sat there contentedly, pleased that Bei Yao did whatever she was told. Only Pei Chuan was furious as he watched Bei Yao being ordered around. He stared coldly at Fong Minjun, but there was nothing he could do because this was his own choice. His heart felt somewhat empty. She was no longer his deskmate. Autumn gradually arrived, and the maple leaves turned the entire school crimson. After school, Bei Yao's mother came to pick her up as usual. Mother and daughter chatted happily as they walked. Seeing the people ahead, Bei Yao politely greeted them. "Hello, Aunt Xiao." "Hello, Minjun." Fong Minjun's mother looked back and said, "Oh, Lon, is that you?" From a distance, I thought Yao Yao was a little fireball. The two girls were dressed in complete contrast. Fong Minjun wore relatively thin clothes, while Bei Yao was bundled up warmly, looking round and adorable. Bei Yao's mother was a little displeased, but she maintained a polite smile. in weather this cold. Who cares whether the clothes look pretty? Being warm is what matters. Minjun's clothes aren't cheap either, are they? Hearing that, Fong Minjun's mother smugly and enthusiastically quoted the price. That padded jacket cost more than 30 yuan, and the scarf was a gift from her aunt. Bei Yao and her mother were speechless at Fong Minjun's mother's exaggerated expression. Fong Minjun sensed something was off and turned to correct her mother. No, Mom. Dad said the padded jacket was only 26 yuan. Her mother irritably retorted, Stop talking. If I say it was 30, then it was 30. Then, with a competitive and self-satisfied look, she instructed her daughter, You have an exam coming up, right? Make sure you do well, understand? You have to score higher than Bei Yao. Hearing there would be a reward. Minjun's eyes lit up with anticipation. Yes, Mom. The next day, the exam began. As the teacher handed out the test papers, she reminded them, Once you receive your test, write your name on it first. Remember to take it seriously. Pei Chuan looked at Bei Yao, somewhat worried for her. The questions were so difficult. Would she know how to answer them? Bei Yao quickly wrote her name after receiving her test paper. Pei Chuan felt embarrassed by his own concern and continuously shook his head, trying to drive her image from his mind. Stop thinking about it. Whether she knows how to do it or not has nothing to do with him. Fong Minjun acted very guardedly, covering her paper with one hand as she worked, afraid that Bei Yao would peek at it. Her mother had said that she could not let Bei Yao score higher than her. After everyone finished, the teacher quickly handed out the test results that afternoon. She repeatedly reminded them, Winter break begins tomorrow. After the holiday, I'll go over the questions you got wrong on the test. As the class received their results, they began whispering among themselves. I got 75. What did you get? I got 85. Boo-hoo. I only got 70 this time. I'll definitely get scolded when I get home. Teacher Su handed Pei Chuan his test paper and praised him. Chuan, here are your results. You did very well. Keep it up. Pei Chuan was not surprised to see his perfect score of 100. He politely replied, Thank you, teacher. He tucked the test paper into his school bag, then looked curiously toward Bei Yao. He wondered whether she had done well. Meanwhile, Fong Minjun turned to Bei Yao and asked, How many points did you get? Bei Yao looked at her result and answered with a satisfied smile. I lost 1 point because my drawing wasn't straight enough. Fong Minjun's expression immediately changed. She had only scored 90, which meant she had lost Bei Yao by 9 points. This was bad. If her mother found out when she got home, she would be finished. After school that afternoon, Pei Chuan's father rode over to pick up his son. The children whose parents had not arrived, yet were still waiting outside the school gate. Pei Chuan suddenly looked up and said to his father, Dad, let's give Bei Yao a ride home too. Pei Haoyun hesitated. But what if her mother comes to pick her up? Pei Chuan glanced toward Bei Yao, unable to bear the thought, so he casually made an excuse. If we see her mother on the way, we can tell her. Otherwise, we can just let the teacher know. Pei Haoyun found that reasonable and relented. All right, there's a lot of snow right now, and that little girl has to travel several kilometers to get home. He then rode over to Bei Yao and called out, Yao Yao, would you like Uncle Pei to take you home? Bei Yao was delighted and politely replied, Yes, please. Thank you, Uncle Pei. Pei Haoyun did not forget to tell the teacher, I'm heading that way anyway, so I'll take Bei Yao home too. If her mother comes, please let her know for me. The teacher nodded. All right, I understand. She quickly helped Yao Yao onto the back seat. Pei Haoyun repeatedly reminded her, Yao Yao, hold tightly onto Uncle Pei's clothes. Don't fool around. Yao Yao obediently did as she was told. Yes, Uncle. Seeing Yao Yao get to ride on the vehicle, the other children were full of envy. I really want to ride it too. I've never ridden one of those before. I've never even ridden a bicycle. Fong Minjun looked unhappy and thought she lived in the same neighborhood as them too. Why was Pei Chuan's father only taking Bei Yao home and not her? Meanwhile, Yao Yao was overjoyed to be riding along, her eyes crinkling into happy crescents as she smiled adorably. Pei Haoyun focused on driving and slowed down as he chatted with Yao Yao. How many points did you get on your test? Yao Yao happily replied, 99. Pei Haoyun smiled and praised her. Yao Yao, you're amazing. You're truly very smart. Thank you, Uncle Pei. Sitting in front, Pei Chuan could not help smiling brightly as he listened to them. It had probably been a very long time since he had smiled. Unexpectedly, he looked so handsome when he did. Meanwhile, Fong Minjun's mother held her daughter's hand as they walked home, looking at the test results. Our Minjun is truly amazing. You scored a whole 90 points. Then she asked, what about Bei Yao? How much did that girl score? Fong Minjun looked anxious and hesitantly reversed Bei Yao's score. 66. Fong Minjun's mother was overjoyed. Wonderful. My good daughter is so impressive. Having lied, Fong Minjun looked guilty, tears welling in her eyes, as though she was about to cry. The scene shifted to Chun-Hu. After seeing his son's test score, Chun-Hu's father's face became black as ink. He immediately kicked the boy repeatedly in the backside. 50 points? First from the bottom? Is your brain made of elmwood? Chun-Hu kept crying and begging. Boo-hoo. Dad, please spare me. I'll do better next time. A nearby neighbor washing dishes heard the commotion and broke out in a cold sweat. That kid's voice is really powerful. Early the next morning, the residential complex was blanketed in white snow. The children excitedly ran outside to play, competing to build snowmen and throw snowballs. Seeing that Fong Minjun had not come down yet, several children looked up and excitedly called out, "Hey, over here, there's so much snow. Minjun, come down and play." That's right, come down and play. Chun-Hu suddenly remembered how, at school that day, Bei Yao had happily given him apple when he asked for some. Right, Bei Yao shared her apple with him last time. Thinking of that, he shouted loudly to Bei Yao, "Baya, come down and play too." At Pei Chuan's home, no one called for him. He was diligently helping his mother make dumplings, and every fold he made was neat and perfect, hardly different from an adult's. Jiang Wenwan looked at her son with immense pride. Chuan had always been like this. He learned everything quickly, and he was the only child in the class who had scored 100. Yet her face was filled with sorrow and guilt as she lowered her head and continued wrapping dumplings. Such a clever, talented child, yet he had lost both his legs. Half his life had been ruined. While wrapping dumplings, Pei Chuan heard the cries of Bei Yao growing louder and louder outside, which left his thoughts in turmoil. The dumpling in his hands tore apart by accident. He was distracted for a moment before quickly steadying himself, lowering his head and wrapping it again. Jiang Wenwan immediately noticed his earlier expression. She did not know how to comfort her son and looked at him with concern. Another new year had come, yet no child had voluntarily come to ask Chuan to play. After thinking for a moment, Jiang Wenwan stood up and removed her apron. "Chuan, you don't need to wrap dumplings anymore. Mom will take you downstairs to play." Pei Chuan gazed blankly at the ceiling. "Go downstairs to play?" Feeling self-conscious, he quietly replied, "No." Suddenly, Bei Yao's cheerful voice rang out beside his ears. Pei Chuan turned anxiously toward the sound. After hesitating for a moment, he agreed to go downstairs with Jiang Wenwan. Outside the apartment building, the children chased one another non-stop, their laughter echoing through the air. Come catch me, catch me." In a room near the building entrance, many parents had also gathered, waiting while the children played. When they saw Jiang Wenwan pushing Pei Chuan over, some people turned to greet them. "Dr. Jiang, you came to play too?" "Oh, Chuan is here as well." Jiang Wenwan politely waved back. "Yes, you all carry on. We'll just watch." Pei Chuan's attention was focused mainly on Bei Yao, who was playing hide-and-seek with the other children. While Bei Yao covered her eyes and counted, Chun-Hu and the other children quickly found places to hide. After she finished counting, Bei Yao eagerly opened her eyes and said with a bright smile, "I'm coming to catch you." But the first thing Bei Yao saw was Pei Chuan. Her eyes widened in surprise, and she softly called out, "You came down to play too, Pei Chuan?" Pei Chuan glanced at her, then quickly looked away. He remained silent. Seeing his indifferent attitude, Bei Yao felt a little disappointed. Since Pei Chuan was still ignoring her, she decided to look for the others first. Putting her thoughts aside, Bei Yao quickly went to look for Chun-Hu and the others. She bent down to search beneath the table where the adults were sitting. They must be here. Finding no one under the table, she moved elsewhere and lifted the curtain. "Are you here?" She deliberately called out loudly, "Come out, I found you." But only silence answered her. Bei Yao was a little disappointed. Could they not be here either? Pei Chuan continued watching her without taking his eyes off her. Just then, a huge clump of snow fell from a tree branch and struck Bei Yao right on top of the head. Caught off guard, she cried out, "Ah!" and squatted down while clutching her head. It hurt, and after searching for so long without finding Chun-Hu and the others, Bei Yao felt wrong. Tears welled up in her eyes. When Pei Chuan saw her crying, he felt a little distressed. His eyes widened as he stared at Bei Yao. Seeing Bei Yao looking so upset as she repeatedly wiped away her tears, Pei Chuan wanted to go over and comfort her, but he did not have the courage. After composing herself, Bei Yao got up and continued searching for Chun Hu and the others. That had been dangerous. She had nearly been buried in snow. Her face was covered in it. She needed to wipe it off. As she passed Pei Chuan, he finally could not hold back and said, "They're in the storage room." Bei Yao stopped at once and turned her head toward him. Afraid that she had misheard him, she looked confused, so he repeated himself, "They're in the storage room." Only then did Bei Yao understand. She happily ran toward the storage room, smiling as she thought, "Did I hear that right? He was willing to talk to me? But he still seems so distant." Seeing that her son looked brighter than before, Jiang Wenwan immediately noticed something unusual. "Did something happen? You seem to be in a much better mood." Pei Chuan only smiled without answering. Soon, Bei Yao arrived at the storage room, where two large black bags lay beside a shelf. Bei Yao walked over and opened one of the black bags. "Delighted to have found Chun Hu and the others," she laughed. "He got you." Chun Hu and the others were quite surprised that she had found them. Chun Hu crawled out of the bag and demanded indignantly, "You peeked, didn't you? My plan was perfect. How could you have found us?" Bei Yao felt a little guilty, but she still answered honestly, No, I didn't peek." Chun Hu refused to believe her. "I don't believe you. You must have cheated to find us." Though Pei Chuan was outside, he could still hear Chun Hu and Bei Yao arguing inside the storage room. "I don't believe you. You definitely peeked." "Little Hu, I really didn't peek." Seeing Bei Yao's hesitant manner, Chun Hu pressed on. "If you didn't, why do you sound so guilty? Tell me, Bei Yao, who did you see first?" Bei Yao's face reddened. Not good at lying, she lowered her head and murmured, I didn't see anyone." Bei Yao did not want to expose Pei Chuan, so she agreed to be the seeker again. Covering her eyes with both hands, she said, "I'll be the cat again. Go hide." She thought to herself, "I'm still the big sister with memories from high school. I can't bully children." Seeing that Bei Yao had yielded, Chun Hu assumed he was right. Before going to hide, he did not forget to turn back and say, "I knew it. You really did peek." Chun Hu quietly told the other children, "Let's hide over there this time." Pei Chuan watched them with longing in his eyes, wanting to join them, but unfortunately, no one paid him any attention. Pei Chuan felt utterly alone. He lowered his head and sighed. "They never wanted to play with me in the first place. I shouldn't have told her. Next time, I won't meddle in other people's business." Pei Chuan reached out and tugged on Jiang Wenjuan's clothes. His lonely voice sounded amid the cold, snowy sky. "Mom, let's go home." Jiang Wenwan was surprised to see that her son was no longer happy. She gave a soft sound of acknowledgement and agreed. She knew Pei Chuan was very sensitive about such things. Ever since he had lost his legs, he had always rejected everyone around him. Looking somewhat sorrowful, Jiang Wenwan pushed his wheelchair and wondered what happened to this child. He was clearly in a good mood just now. After counting with her eyes covered, Bei Yao quickly ran outside to look for Chun Hu and the others. When she saw Pei Chuan leaving, she wanted to call after him, but then hesitated. "Pei Chuan is gone, but I still haven't thanked him." Inside the house, Fang Minjun's mother was playing mahjong with Bei Yao's mother and two others. As they played, Fang Minjun's mother bragged, "Next year, my Minjun and your Yao Yao will both be starting first grade, right?" Children really do grow up quickly. Taking the opportunity to show off, she spoke in a falsely considerate tone, though her words were full of mockery. "Lanji, don't be too upset. If Yao Yao really can't keep up, just let her stay in the preparatory class for another year. She's still young, after all. It wouldn't be strange if she couldn't keep up with the other children." Bei Yao's mother was baffled. "What are you talking about?" Fang Minjun's mother continued, "I heard Yao Yao's test score was only barely passing. Is that true?" Feeling very smug, she presumptuously advised, "Lanji, don't force the child to keep up. A solid foundation is what matters most. I had thought that if Minjun did poorly on her test, it would be fine for her to spend another year in the preparatory class. But I never expected her to score 90 points. She definitely won't have any trouble in first grade." Only then did Bei Yao's mother understand what she meant. Unbothered by the woman's earlier remarks, she simply smiled and retorted, "Who said our Yao Yao only barely passed? She was very well behaved this year. She was only 1 point away from a perfect score." Naturally, Fang Minjun's mother did not believe it. She sneered inwardly. "What a liar. Zhao Lanji, you don't need to make things up to fool people." Annoyed by her neighbor's baseless words, Bei Yao's mother retorted, "How is that a lie? Doesn't your child have the records?" Seeing Bei Yao's mother's firm attitude, Fang Minjun's mother immediately dropped her arrogant manner. If what she said was true, she would soon make a complete fool of herself. But did that little Bei Yao really score 99 points? Only then did Fang Minjun's mother understand why the sea was salty. She wished there were a hole she could crawl into. She had embarrassed herself terribly. The other two neighbors quickly began praising Bei Yao. Oh my, Yao Yao will surely be very accomplished in the future. Exactly. Children her age barely know any characters yet. This child is truly smart. Bei Yao's mother beamed with joy at the praise for her daughter, but she politely replied, "Not at all. Thank you all for praising her." In contrast to everyone's smiling faces, Fang Minjun's mother's expression darkened like ink. She did not dare say another word. Deeply dissatisfied with this outcome, she thought irritably, "Ever since we were little, this is the first time Zhao Lanji has beaten me. When I get home, I have to ask that useless Minjun what exactly happened." That evening, cries of boohoo continuously came from Fang Minjun's apartment. At the dinner table, Fang Minjun was being harshly scolded by her mother. Tears streaming down her face, she wiped them away and defended herself. 90 points is already very high, Mom. Shenhu only got 50, but her mother, consumed by competitiveness, was still unreasonable. "Didn't I tell you to score higher than Bei Yao?" Fang Minjun felt deeply aggrieved that her mother kept comparing her to Bei Yao. Sobbing, she choked out, "Except for Bei Yao, I scored the highest. Mom, next time I'll definitely score higher than Bei Yao." Only then did her mother calm down somewhat, though her voice remained resentful. After the new year, remember to work harder, understand? Fang Minjun felt tremendous pressure, but she could only answer, "Yes, Mom, I understand." On a beautiful day, Bei Yao gazed distractedly toward the classroom and thought, "Spring has arrived, and we have begun a new semester." Fang Minjun was still as aloof as ever, concentrating on her studies without speaking to me. Chunhu's laughter was still just as piercing. Nothing had changed. Then Bei Yao shifted her gaze toward him, her heart full of worries. Since that snowy day, Pei Chuan had never taken the initiative to speak to her again. This made her suspect that perhaps she had imagined hearing him speak to her that day. The teacher entered the classroom, stood at the podium, and announced to the students in her charge, "During this final month of the preparatory class, the school has issued a notice. Preparatory class students will no longer need to take exams in the future." The entire class erupted into chatter, everyone delighted by the news. "Really? That's wonderful." Only Fang Minjun was unhappy to hear it. She felt that all the effort she had made had suddenly gone to waste. What? No more exams? Does that mean I'll have to wait until first grade before I can surpass Bei Yao? The teacher looked kindly at her students and encouraged them. "When you enter primary school, make sure to work hard." The entire class replied excitedly, "Yes, teacher." At recess, Bei Yao did not go outside. She sat in the classroom with her chin resting on her hand, watching Pei Chuan. Why isn't Pei Chuan going out to play today either? At the desk beside hers, Pei Chuan's thoughts were entirely focused on his legs. Looking at them with hope in his eyes, he thought, "Mom said that when I grow up, my legs will grow back. But why am I already 6 and they still haven't grown back?" Pei Chuan felt terribly empty. He began to doubt whether what his mother had told him was true, or would he never be able to stand again for the rest of his life? If that were true, what reason would he have to keep living? The conversation from an argument between his parents that he had accidentally overheard at home kept replaying in his mind. "Wenwan, don't get worked up. Chuan is still little. He can't bear the pain of learning to use prosthetic legs." Jiang Wenwan said unwillingly, "But no first-grade teacher is willing to help little Chuan use the restroom." Seeing his wife so agitated, Pei Haoyun tried to comfort her. "I told you, I'll ask the teachers. I'll give them gifts and ask them to help." Jiang Wenwan still refused to let it go. "And then what? What about 5th grade, 6th grade middle school? Can you keep asking favors forever? I'll find someone to make prosthetic legs for little Chuan. Even if it bankrupts us, I'll let him stand again." Hearing his parents argue, he could only lower his head in sadness. "Ever since kindergarten, I haven't asked a teacher to help me use the restroom anymore." He looked down at his legs, his eyes full of hope. "Mom said that once I grew up, they would become fuller and longer. But every night before I sleep, I look at them, and they still haven't grown even a little. I don't know what prosthetic legs are, but I want to stand again." Back with Bei Yao, her mother took her to school that day, but Bei Yao's face was heavy with worry. Early that morning, Her memories of fourth grade had surfaced vividly. Two major events would take place during the year she was in fourth grade. The first was that the road from home to school would be under construction, forcing her to take a detour every day. The second was that her uncle would hit someone with his vehicle while she was in fourth grade, resulting in a huge compensation payment. Her mother would have no choice but to use the family savings to fill that bottomless pit. She fell into brief contemplation. Though she did not fully understand those two matters, they were definitely bad things. Beiyao's mother stepped forward to greet the teacher. "Hello, teacher." The teacher also came forward and greeted her. "Hello, I'm Kai Ching-yu, the first grade homeroom teacher." She praised Beiyao, saying, "I've seen Beiyao's preparatory class results. They're very good." Beiyao's mother was delighted. "Thank you, teacher. We'll be relying on you from now on." Only then did Beiyao snap out her thoughts. Looking at the unfamiliar teacher before her, she wondered, who is she? Recalling her memories, Beiyao realized that she had never studied under this teacher before. She remembered that her first grade homeroom teacher had been Hong Guangjing, who had a terrible temperament. Whenever Beiyao made a mistake in her writing, that teacher would hit her hand. Then Beiyao suddenly thought of another possibility. Right, because I attended one less year in this life. Things have changed from my previous life. This made Beiyao uneasy. Whether the teacher had changed or not was normal, but did that mean the future was still unknown? Would it not be the same as in her previous life? A while later, in the teacher's office, Teacher Kai handed Pei Chuan a sheet of paper and proposed, "Let's play a game, shall we?" Pointing to the information written on it, she said, "Choose one name from these." Smiling, she wanted to make him feel closer to her. The paper listed the names and scores of 4 people Pei Chuan knew: Fang Minjun, Chun Hu, Beiyao, and Li De. The teacher continued, "Whoever you choose will become your desk mate." As she waited for him to decide, she thought, these 4 children are all Pei Chuan's neighbors. At the very least, they may be able to look after him. She recalled the request made by the teacher who had taught him before. "The child is very sensitive. In the preparatory class, he never once asked me to help him use the restroom. If possible, please give him extra care." Remembering those words, Teacher Kai looked at him with deep sympathy. He only attended the preparatory class, so he probably does not know much. Letting him choose his desk mate should be relatively fair. Across from her, Pei Chuan looked at the sheet of paper and struggled with his choice. He did not know whom to pick. His gaze settled on the person who had scored 99 points. She said she scored 99 points. This must be her. This time, he did not want to miss the chance to be friends with her as he had the year before. Nor did he want to push her away again. The preparatory class had taught him a lesson. If he did not fight for it, she would become someone else's desk mate, and he would have nothing. Life had never been kind to him. Perhaps he should be a little selfish. With that thought, he decisively pointed to the name with a score of 99, believing it was Beiyao. Thinking of her made Pei Chuan feel warm inside, because she was the only one who had ever truly cared about him. Whenever they moved up a grade, everyone would have a new desk mate. I have taken away 3 out of 4 chances for her to sit with someone else. Suddenly, Pei Chuan's expression darkened. He felt guilty. "I'm not a good person." In the new school year, the children busily took their assigned seats. Numerous parents stood outside watching. As Beiyao entered the classroom, she did not forget to turn back and wave to her mother. "Bye, Mom." Her mother called from outside. "Remember to listen to your teacher." As Beiyao looked around the classroom, she suddenly discovered that he had arrived too. Beiyao hurried over to Pei Chuan and spoke to him. "Pei Chuan, you came so early. We're desk mates again. How wonderful." He looked at her too, but said nothing. Still cheerful and friendly, she sat down and took out a handful of colorful pickup sticks, cradling them in her hands. "Some people still haven't arrived. While we wait, how about we play pickup sticks?" This time, Pei Chuan did not refuse and quickly agreed. Hearing that, Beiyao became even more delighted. "The first player gets priority. Why don't you choose first?" Outside the classroom door, Fang Minjun's family had just arrived. "Minjun, go into class. Remember to study hard." Fang Minjun's mother looked into the classroom and suddenly spotted Pei Chuan. "Oh, that's the Pei family's child." Minjun said he got first place on the test. Looking down at his legs, she thought disdainfully, smart or not, he is still disabled. It will be difficult for him to find work or marry in the future. What family would be willing to marry their daughter to someone like that? Though Pei Chuan did not understand how to yield, he was like a young bamboo shoot standing resolutely through last year's hailstorm. facing wind, rain, and pounding ice until he could only be snapped by the wind. Yet Beiyao was always soft and gentle with him. Her tolerance, the greatest kindness a child could offer, gradually melted away his coldness. In that scorching summer, Pei Chuan never drank water at school without bringing an extra bottle. Naturally, that bottle of water would cross the invisible boundary between their desks and appear on Beiyao's table. It seemed to be the warmth he wanted to reserve just for her, just as she had always treated him kindly. In the classroom, the entire class was focused on music lesson. Clear young voices rose together in song. A grapevine grows before the door, a grapevine grows before the door, tender green shoots are sprouting, tender green shoots are sprouting. Beiyao was also engrossed in the song. The little snail carries its heavy house, climbing upward step by step. 2 orioles sit in the tree. Just as the class reached this part, the teacher came over and tapped her ruler on the desk, calling on Pei Chuan. Pei Chuan, why aren't you singing with the others today? At her question, he raised his eyes to look at her, but remained silent. The teacher looked directly into his eyes and was startled. The depths of this child's eyes were like a lake. There was not the slightest trace of fear toward a teacher. Unhappy, she said sternly, Pei Chuan, your legs may be injured, but that doesn't mean you can't sing. You're being disrespectful to your teacher. Do you understand? From now on, I'll sing one line, and you repeat after me. Beiyao was extremely worried for him and softly called Pei Chuan. Meanwhile, the teacher set the beat and began singing first. A grapevine grows before the door. Come on, Pei Chuan, sing. After hesitating for a moment, he finally opened his mouth to follow her. But his voice was terribly hoarse. A grapevine grows before the door. Chun, who showed no mercy, clutching his stomach as he burst into loud laughter. Ha ha ha. Then he loudly pointed out, he's offbeat. And look, he's missing a front tooth. Those mocking laughs made Pei Chuan feel awful. He felt as if he were falling into an abyss. The teacher looked at the other students and reminded them, quiet, everyone. No laughing. We're only learning a song. What's so funny about that? Pei Chuan continued singing after her. Beiyao watched him anxiously. What should she do? She was scared of the teacher too, but she could not let him feel isolated. No, she had to help him. Acting on the thought immediately, she picked up the songbook and began singing in a deliberately offbeat voice. The little snail carries its heavy house. She successfully drew the entire class's attention to herself. Everyone clutched their stomachs and laughed. Hee ha ha ha. Chun, who laughed so hard he could barely stand it, repeatedly slapping the desk. Baya, you re so funny. The teacher didn't even ask you to sing. You even skipped a line, and you're offbeat too. Ha ha ha. Pei Chuan looked at her skeptically. When the teacher had taught everyone the song earlier, she clearly had not sung offbeat. Then he suddenly realized that she was doing this to help him out of an awkward situation. Her action made his heart feel warmer than ever before. Seeing him stare at her, Beiyao blushed with embarrassment. As it happened, she was missing one of her front teeth too, since it was being replaced. Ah, Pei Chuan is looking at me. How embarrassing. I should smile, or this will be even more awkward. Pei Chuan also noticed that she was missing a front tooth, just like him. Looking at her, he re-evaluated himself. Missing front teeth really does look terribly ugly. No wonder the other students had laughed at him. So Pei Chuan turned his head away, shut his mouth, and resolved not to show his teeth again. Time passed swiftly, and before they knew it, they were already in 3rd grade. Beiyao had grown much taller and looked exceptionally pretty. Good morning, Pei Chuan. As usual, she was still his desk mate. Pei Chuan had become more open than before, and he returned her greeting. Noticing something different about her today, he looked up and asked, "Where are your hair ties?" As she sat down and took out her books, she answered, "Mom said that now that I'm in 3rd grade, I shouldn't wear 2 braids anymore. It's too childish, so I threw them away." She smoothed her hair and asked him brightly, "How is it? Is my new hairstyle pretty?" He looked at her unfamiliar new hairstyle. It felt strange to him, so he bluntly said, "Not pretty." Hearing that, Beiyao hugged her books and let out a dejected sigh. She gloomily thought, sure enough, I'm not as pretty as Minjun. Life continued to pass peacefully, and Beiyao grew quite a bit taller. After school, she slowly walked toward the school gate, her mind still filled with thoughts of the event from her previous life and this one. Yesterday, her father had hit someone with his vehicle, and her mother had nearly used up all the money in the house to compensate them. Listlessly, she lightly kicked a pebble on the ground. Everything is still unfolding exactly as I remember. I can't change anything at all. Pei Chuan saw her looking so downcast and had intended to call out to her, but for some reason, he remained silent. Two girls ran up from behind, calling after her, "Bei Yao, wait for us." Bei Yao stopped to chat with them, and Ai Hui and Gu Xinghua were the two friends in class whom she was closest to. Suddenly, Pei Chuan said to Pei Haoyun, "Dad, next time, let me sit in the back." Pei Haoyun asked in confusion, "Why do you want to sit in the back? The front is much safer, and I can keep an eye on you there." Looking at his own hands, Pei Chuan insisted, "I can sit in the back and hold on to your shirt." "That's right," he told himself. "My hands are already strong enough." During dinner, Jiang Wenwan said softly, "Someone I know at the hospital said that, given Xiao Chuan's current condition, he can be fitted with prosthetic legs now. He has a friend who works in this field." Pei Haoyun no longer objected as he had before. He only gently asked, "Is this person reliable?" Pei Chuan, who was eating, felt a flicker of anticipation when he heard the words prosthetic legs. Jiang Wenwan answered with a smile, "Of course he's reliable." Bending down, she asked her son, "Xiao Chuan, you'll be able to stand again soon. Are you happy?" Unable to hide his excitement, Pei Chuan happily replied, "Yes." Pei Haoyun finally yielded to the mother and son. "All right, tomorrow, I'll take leave from school. You take Xiao Chuan for an examination." But Pei Chuan quickly came to understand what prosthetic legs truly meant. 10 days later, he put them on. Yet unlike what he had expected, the prosthetic legs were cold, without even the slightest warmth. Even so, he did not lose heart. Enduring the pain, he struggled unsteadily to his feet. So much time had passed that he was close to forgetting what walking felt like. He slowly took step after step on his prosthetic legs. A piercing pain shot through him, making his entire body tremble uncontrollably. No matter how hard he tried, he could not control his legs, and he collapsed weakly onto the floor. Using his hands, he struggled to brace himself against the bed frame and stand again. Though it hurt, he did not make a sound. Pei Chuan refused to give up. He rose once more, determined to keep practicing until he could walk. Just when he thought he had managed to stand firmly, he fell forward again. Gritting his teeth, he silently encouraged himself. "No, I can't give up. That's right. As long as I work hard, I'll definitely be able to stand up." His parents saw every bit of his effort. Seeing her son like this, Jiang Wenwan could only cover her mouth to keep herself from crying aloud. Pei Haoyun held her and comforted her. They knew just how hard their son was fighting through this difficult journey. From then on, every day after he woke up, Pei Chuan trained diligently, never wasting a single moment. From autumn to winter, he never once stopped. Heaven did not disappoint those who persevered. His efforts were rewarded. By spring, Pei Chuan could finally walk on his prosthetic legs like an ordinary person. As long as he pulled down his trouser legs, he looked no different from any other child. Today, rain poured down heavily, and the students hurried into the classroom beneath their umbrellas. This weather made everyone complain. "Hurry, hurry, my shoes are completely soaked." Inside class 4A, Bei Yao was intently tidying her desk. Suddenly, she sensed someone approach without saying a word. When she looked over and saw who it was, she could not hide her astonishment. Her eyes widened as she stared at the person before her, as though she could not believe it was real. The other students noticed the strange sight as well, and every gaze turned toward Bei Yao's desk. "Is that him? Did his legs grow back?" The person who had appeared was Pei Chuan. He stood across from Bei Yao, staring straight at her. Her eyes were filled with curiosity as she looked at him, so intent that she forgot even to blink. Pei Chuan is so tall. After her initial surprise, she suddenly remembered. That's right. In her memories from her previous life, Pei Chuan had worn prosthetic legs too. It was just that not long afterward, he had refused to wear them anymore and returned to using a wheelchair. And this was connected to her, too. Thinking of this, her gaze dimmed. Bei Yao sat down, but her thoughts remained troubled. Based on how things had developed so far, Pei Chuan still might encounter that person while the road repairs had not yet been completed. Looking at him, she silently told herself, "I can't let him go home alone." When school ended, her two close friends came over to ask her to go home with them. But Bei Yao waved a hand and casually made up an excuse to refuse. "You two go on ahead. My stomach hurts a little, so I need to use the restroom." Her friends did not think much of it. "All right then, we'll head home first." Bei Yao pretended to head toward the restroom, but her eyes lingered on him in the classroom. She had thought it through carefully. Pei Chuan definitely did not want people he knew to see him struggling to walk, so he always waited until everyone else had left before going home. "I'll pretend to go to the restroom first." On Pei Chuan's side, only after seeing that the classroom was empty did he finally relax. Phew, everyone's finally gone. He had no idea that a pair of eyes was still following him from behind. Bei Yao silently kept her distance as she walked after him, protecting him in secret without making a sound. Sure enough, his walking still looked somewhat unnatural. Just as she was watching him closely, Pei Chuan unexpectedly turned around, catching Bei Yao red-handed. She became rather flustered. Afraid that he would feel embarrassed, she deliberately pretended that nothing was wrong and walked right past him. As she took off running as fast as she could. Her actions left Pei Chuan staring after her in bewilderment. What did she mean by that? She deliberately walked behind me. Pei Chuan was a sensitive person, and he misunderstood her good intentions. Is she doing this to laugh at me? How strange. At the same time, 3 students were walking along the same road. One of them asked, Ding Wenyang, do you know about that kid in 4th grade at our school who has no legs? The other answered, yeah, I've heard of him. The one in the wheelchair, right? What about him? I heard that 2 days ago, he got legs again. He can even walk home by himself. Do you think he has prosthetic legs? Ding Wenyang gave an unfriendly smile. How can prosthetic legs move like real legs? Prosthetic legs? Interesting. I want to see for myself. The student grinned and suggested, I know. After school, he always takes the small path home, and he walks as slowly as a snail. I'll take you guys to see. The whole group, eager for a spectacle, immediately agreed. Let's go. Bei Yao happened to overhear every word they said. Her face filled with worry and panic, and she immediately turned to follow them. Inside a narrow alley, the 3 boys finally found Pei Chuan. The leader immediately grabbed him by the collar. Hey kid, let me see your prosthetic legs. Although Pei Chuan felt somewhat panicked inside, he maintained an indifferent expression on the surface. He gripped the leader's hand tightly, trying to force him to release his collar. In response, the leader's wrist hurt so badly that he frowned. This kid is pretty strong. In pain, he immediately shoved Pei Chuan backward. Unable to keep his balance, Pei Chuan slammed hard onto the ground. The leader smugly ordered his 2 lackeys, hold him down for me. One stepped forward and grabbed Pei Chuan's hands, pulling them over his head. The other tightly pinned down his legs. Pei Chuan struggled desperately. Let go of me. Get away. His eyes were full of fury. Let me go. The leader stepped forward, grabbed his hair, and kept cursing. You little bastard, shut up. 2 other students happened to pass by and saw what was happening, but they did not dare step forward to stop it. They could only whisper to each other. Why are they bullying him? I don't know. That's Ding Wenyang's group from 6th grade. I heard they're really vicious. Hold him tight for me. Let me see what this guy's prosthetic legs look like. Ha ha ha. Pei Chuan struggled as hard as he could, but could not break free. He was frightened by the thought of others making a spectacle of his legs. Tears filled his eyes as he shouted furiously, Go die! All of you go die! The leader remained cheerful, unconcerned by Pei Chuan's distress or angry curses. Using both hands, he began pulling off Pei Chuan's shoes. Just as the shoes were about to come off, something suddenly struck the leader hard on the head, stopping him mid-action. He stood up and shouted angrily, What the hell? You dare hit me? Bei Yao's hand, clutching a small branch, trembled uncontrollably. Though she was terrified, she refused to take even one step back because she had promised herself that in this life, she would protect him no matter what. I'll let him go.